Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. The monthly report came out for December, but with these monthly reports there's a lot of information that is super obvious, rehashed or irrelevant. So going forward I'm going to summarise these reports, focusing on what the studios are working on now, items that were not so obvious and more interesting information, as well as putting stuff into context a little bit more of what the studios are currently working on. Obviously 3.0 went live and got published, as well as Squadron 42's vertical slice getting shown, and all of the teams in all of the studios were working hard on getting that build out, tested, refined, and into our hands. But let's have a closer look at what some of the other bits that the studios were working on. In CIG LA, engineering got the first tier of Item System 2.0 for ships finalised, which means they're going to continue to iterate on Item System 2.0. And some of the underlying systems, such as scanning and quantum travel, saw some of their first iteration prototyping. Tech design, they spent time balancing the shield stats to account for better power retention and heat generation. Also, along with the art guys, they continue to work on ships like the Terrapin, the revised Mustang, the Hurricane, the Tumbrel Cyclone, to get them all set up and usable as soon as possible. They also completed design briefs for a mystery ship that they are looking forward to getting into our hands. They also supported the UI team in completing the scanning visor, the MFDs, and hooking up all the assets to be released in the future with those systems. Art. They implemented a new hair shader to make characters shine. They also added some wear and tear to character loadouts, giving them a more authentic feel in-game. Tech content, tools-wise, they improved the Mannequin Python tools, the CIG tools installer, a jump/spike detection tool, and the skeleton table, as well as added several new health checks to the pipelines. The mocap team there tracked, solved, and processed a large group of characters in support of Squadron 42. A mocap shoot was also held to capture some additional footage needed for key characters. For environments, a lot of R&D was put into the new glass shaders and the vertex curvature scripts. Additionally, they planned for procedural layouts work coming in 2018. On the weapons front, they R&D'd animated attachments and magazines. They also made progress on the P8AR magazine, the Gemini F55, and a skin transfer script. Let's have a look at CIG Austin. Design there, they were working on the economy and item pricing. They continue to balance that based on collected analytics from players in 3.0, and there is still a lot more dialing in to be done with those systems. They continue to work on Route Out and Miles, the mission givers. They represent a complex set of systems like animation, subsumption and more, all coming together, and they learned a lot to help them with their processes and help streamline it in the future. With ships, the Constellation Phoenix is white box complete now, and it's progressing onto its grey box. The Anvil F8 Lightning entered the white box phase as well. Back-end services, after the intensive 3.0 publishing process, they carefully tracked the bandwidth being used and adjusted the servers accordingly. They also worked with design to apply a number of hotfixes to address unexpected issues that negatively impact performance and gameplay. Animation-wise, they've begun work on the Tumbrel Cyclone animations that were recorded in a motion capture shoot last month. For Squadron 42, they also performed a polish pass on numerous interaction animations on the Idris to make sure the crew looked as good as possible as they moved around the ship, performing various tasks through the usable system. Foundry 42 UK and the Winslow guys as well. So graphics there made major fixes to texture streaming bugs. They've since found another bug in Lumberyard, and the fix there will vastly reduce VRAM usage on the next release. A fix for facial animation glitching was also done, and various fixes for hair and temporal anti-aliasing. They also continue to develop the render-to-texture system, including adding expose control to videocom calls and using the system for the new ship targeting displays. The Squadron 42 vertical slice also benefited from some of these new features, such as new cloth shading models, improved light beams, the debut of volumetric gas cloud attack, and a new particle-based shield effect that uses signed distance fields to allow the particles to smoothly flow along the hull of a ship. The focus for the new year will be to shift into improving performance and various planned shader improvements to enable more dynamic materials. Ships. So there's some pretty cool work on ships. The Hammerhead there, they've been working on finishing the exterior sections. They did a detail pass across the hull and engines and gave the underside more attention. The landing gear was also updated, so the exterior is now ready to start on the damage setup. For the interior, they've blocked out the floor plans using the existing Aegis kits from the Idris and the Javelin. They've also worked out what bespoke and new pieces are needed to finish the interior and have a couple of guys at work on these now. The revised Avenger. So the Avenger has been undergoing a complete remake to address issues with the original and make it conform to the current ship metrics and requirements. The cargo and bounty hunter variants are art complete, and work on the EMP variant is scheduled for January. Work to finalise the remaining exterior parts, such as landing gear, damage, and the levels of detail, will start soon. The ship has been scaled up a lot. That's basically what's happened with the Avenger, which means you're getting more ship for your money or your UBC or whatever. The 600i is entering the final art phase. On the exterior, the thrusters and landing gear are near completion, and work is due to start on the turret. The interior is going through a polish pass, while work on the bridge, corridors, and exploration module are due to be wrapped up soon. Since the last update, they've listened to backer feedback and removed the struts from the bridge windows as well. The Gladius was a big part of Squadron 42's vertical slice, so they spent time tweaking it for the demo. This included implementing new glass and screen shaders, cockpit lighting and headlight tweaks, as well as screen positioning and adding a new star map for the cockpit. Work also continued on the Eclipse as the cockpit and exterior were grey boxed. The mesh is currently going through a detail pass before starting on textures and shaders. The Vandal Blade exterior is almost complete and has been brought into line with the other Vandal ships. Their current focus is on the interior and working out the enter and exit mechanism for pilots. The VFX guys there continued work on R&D on signed distance field shield effects. So this includes powering on and powering off and impact effects for the Gladius, Cutlass and Buccaneer in the shorter term. They also made solid progress on VFX for the scanning feature. Amongst other things, it will emit a virtual particle grid only seen via the UI that allows players to better visualize 3D space. Environments. So there is a big focus on 2018 and getting all spaces that are shared across locations functional. So they worked on whiteboxing the kits for both hangar and habitation modules. The idea here is to create kits with common elements in a specific art style so they can be used across different locations. The whitebox stage allows design, art and code to lock down the features before an element is committed into final art. They've also been looking at improvements to planet texturing systems, and the main goal is to improve the diversity and breakup of terrain types across the planet's surfaces. The new tech increases the number of supported distribution channels by 5 times, meaning that there's some improved visuals across terrain in the not too distant future that we will be seeing. The concept and tech teams have worked together and introduced a new core structure and narrative behind how Lorville and Hurston function and come together. They've developed an exciting and visually interesting city archetype for integrating procedural and landing zone elements. They did an extensive amount of concept work to solve most of the major design issues with them as well. The base architecture for a utilitarian habitation was established for the first procedural and fully interactive room. The concept is busy investigating and solving both the material and theming diversity for generating these units across the Stanton system. Weapons and ships there. This month they wrapped up the super large Nova tank as well as 3 new ships of varying sizes and roles. They also provided support where needed and helped with marketing and the new website revamp. For ship weapons, the team completed the Trident laser beam size 4 to size 6 and the Hurston electron beam alterations size 1 to size 3. Engineering implemented the dynamic lighting mentioned last month. This also now allows devs to fade up specific lighting rigs for cutscenes to highlight the quality of the characters. They also experimented with new dynamic depth of field, so DOF, mechanics for non-combat scenarios to give the game a more cinematic feel. Rather than having an infinite depth of field, which is usually the case, the game focuses on what the player is currently looking at and applies a subtle blur for everything that is nearer or further away. I'm hoping that there is an option to remove that entirely. I never like depth of field and blur in games. The networking team worked on serialized variable culling, which eventually will become the entity bind culling. This stops the server from distributing the state of variables on an entity after a certain distance, considering the massive size of the persistent universe and content required to fill it. Sending updates to everyone becomes a bottleneck very quickly. This helps the network bandwidth and performance side massively, and the server/client doesn't have to deal with nearly as much data. The downside is that when the code is not expecting this behavior, edge cases are introduced and new bugs appear. Let's take a look at Foundry 42 Frankfurt. The engine guys there are still working on fixes and issues that are affecting the persistent universe, or that they can polish as well moving forwards. They made improvements to the new memory tracking tool for both server and clients. They implemented scripts to automatically analyze gathered statistics to quickly find leaks and dubious allocations. They started implementations of Horizon-based SSDOs, and the initial results look really good apparently. They reworked the cloth shaders to use a more physically based, more appropriate model for cloth. Level design, after 3.0 was in the PTU for a while, the decision was made to increase the server size to 50. That meant adding more spawning areas to enable people to spawn more smoothly without conflict with one another and out spawning on top of each other. The DE, or the German or Frankfurt level design team, is looking to expand. As more features come online, they'll need additional designers to keep on top of the increased content and the R&D for up-and-coming solutions for systems and releases and that sort of stuff. Tech art, they're currently extending the FPS weapons pipeline with a new tool called CIG Skin XFE, which will enable weapon artists to transfer skin weights to different meshes from one source skinned object. They started work on real-time cloth and flesh simulations for R&D stuff for that anyway, and developed a live link between Maya and the game engine, so animators can tweak animations, in particular facial animations, while enjoying the advanced shading quality of the in-engine real-time renderers versus Maya's own viewpoint. This tech will be particularly useful for integrating and tweaking the facial animations in Squadron 42's cinematic cutscenes. This artistically controlled lighting will have a huge impact on the look and feel of the animation and performance, meaning that iterating real-time and in-game will make things look much better and it will be a lot more efficient. Weapons. The FPS weapons guys there have completed the first pass on the Gemini F-55 light machine gun and the Torel aggregate KHIX missile launcher as well. I want to see a missile launcher. I want to shoot missile launcher. The ship weapon art team have finished the first pass of the art for the A and R laser cannons, size 1 to 6, and the Garrison tactical ballistic gatlings, size 1 to 3. They've also been working on scripts and tools to help further speed up the art pipeline there. One such script is a ship weapon tool made to assist the creation of modular weapons. This new tool creates a larger number of weapons in a short amount of time by allowing artists to preview different component setups in real time, and then automates the exporting process directly into the game engine. The AI team there, they've introduced several new functionalities. I'm going to go over these in quite a lot of detail actually, because AI and subsumption stuff is very important and possibly one of the main reasons that Squadron 42 and Star Citizen has been delayed as much as it has, or that something that they're working on that requires the most amount of work anyway. The new subsumption event dispatcher they've been working on, the master graph, and the dynamic track view implementation are all major things here. The subsumption event dispatcher is a way to fully support subsumption events without relying on other external systems. It's composed by a central system that allows user code to create and send an event. The events are created in a pool that allows the AI system to efficiently handle and reuse the allocated memory, and each signal lifetime is automatically managed by a specific structure called handlers that also allow fast access to the signal itself. User code can specify a direct event to an entity or send an event to all entities in a range from a specific location. Send events in a range is now zone safe, and all the code efficiently uses the zone system for special queries and entity filtering. The master graph is a way of building a relationship between multiple subsumption activities. The team there wants to generate a way of handling assignments, requests from designers, combat and regular activities. The master graph allows them to specify transitions between the scheduled activities and other logic that should be executed when a specific event is received. They also provided support for dynamic track view scenes. A dynamic track view scene is a cinematic scene where the participants can be replaced at runtime with actual AI NPCs, and this allows the cinematic designers to work on their scene in a controlled environment, and allows level designers to populate their level with NPCs that might have different activities, specific clothing, customizations based on how the player affects the game. All the changes in the character that might influence the real NPC characters and be a part of those cinematic scenes. Also, dynamic track view scenes can potentially be interrupted, so the AI system needs to know how to take over if and when this happens. In regards to the ship AI, that got a lot of attention too, with Squadron 42's vertical slice showing the first iteration of that updated ship behaviour. The current movement system is in control for both on-foot and flying movement requests, and the subsumption is in charge of controlling the pilots and seat operators' behaviours. The new spaceships are fully controlled by the NPC seating on the operator's seats. Each operator has specific behaviours to use the items they control. The first version of turrets has been implemented using subsumption, and the initial accuracy parameters introduced for NPCs using those particular seat items. Cinematics, they've spent the month working hard and prepping the relevant scenes and tech needed for the Squadron 42 vertical slice. They scaled the PCAP performances for the character Vat Tagasa, played by Craig Fairbass, to emphasise his real-life intimidating body stature. And no, you cannot play as that 7-foot brick house of a man, unfortunately. Work was done to track view nav spline tech as well that allows them to more precisely puppeteer AI ships, like going from interior zones to outside Shubin in a seamless way and seamless transitions. They also prototyped and then enabled an always-on autofocus, or FSTOP, based on depth of field, mostly for non-combat situations. That adds a bit of filmic realism to walking around and exploring interiors. They successfully created a couple of gold standard scenes, which take into account all departments necessary and represent the flow and interaction that will be applied to future applicable scenes. Environmental art there, they've had a lot of preparation and lots of R&D has gone on into updating planet tech and tools. As the game moves from moons to full planets, they want to have more visually diverse ecosystems and have more control and more variety of colours and materials. Work is being done on updating the planet tech as well as the shaders used on scattered assets. This allows them to have a better visual palette and allows them to have much more interesting upcoming locations, which we should have into the game in the not too distant future. It also provides a nice visual update and boost in quality for the existing moons. The system design team there, they've been working on some issues with mission givers and admin officers, getting missions be able to be more completable and doable. Another big focus was FPS combat AI. It's not finished, but it's showing a lot more promise. The combat AI are beginning to act in a more believable manner, and as they continue to add behaviours, adjust the timing of combat, and strive to get AI fights to feel more challenging and fun to play, we should see this getting better and better as the patches roll on. Things are also completed, including override pump upgrades to doors, hatches received locks that can be cut through, the beds in the Idris got upgraded with shutters, and even more complex usables were added to make the game feel more alive. Turbulent! So the Delta Patcher was released, allowing much easier patching deployment, as well as less data transfer in general, which should save CIG a lot of money. This will also allow them to open communication between game sessions and the Spectrum client moving forwards. This also opens the door for integrated anti-cheat and sandboxing systems. The new website and roadmap is coming online in January, which is going to allow us for much more information, much better ways of showing that information, and we will also see the planned releases or a lot more of the roadmap for 2018 with Star Citizen's Persistent Universe and on Squadron 42 as well, with those updates and stuff as they move forward. But overall, a very interesting monthly report. I hope you enjoyed this new slightly changed format of it, where we're just kind of highlighting the more interesting areas and things that are more relevant, rather than just going, oh, they worked on 3.0 and they did good work on it and it was good and they got this finished. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully you enjoy that. Every month we have a giveaway for a ship. For January, it's a Hammerhead gunboat donated by our featured org, IDF, the Intergalactic Defence Force. They're a lawful org that focus on trade, security, escorting and teamwork, but will dabble in other areas of the game as well, so a little bit of everything there. Links below if you're interested in checking them out. They are active on Discord and in 3.0 now. All you need to do, however, to be in chance to win that Hammerhead is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and just comment on any of my Star Citizen or gaming videos during that particular month. Do you have any questions about Star Citizen, about Squadron 42, about the monthly report, about anything that I do? Suggestions for videos or feedback or whatever, chuck them in the comments below. A special thank you to my Patreons for allowing me to create the amount of content I do. If you're interested in becoming one of them, the links to Patreon are also below, as well as links to the monthly reports and everything else we've talked about. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help me, and I'll see you in the verse.